You never fall in love with the real person. You always fall in love with the fantasy you've created about today. If you do, I'll give. If you don't, I won't give. There's blackmail. That's why. What do I like about blackmail? The mafia.
Some people, as you experienced, will view you as a hippie. I see you as a wise man.
Yes, just some random guy like you. Now, all marriages either end badly or continue badly. Yes. I want to ask a little something here.
You, despite living in love, say that you've had 8 marriages.
No way, man.
Welcome to another episode of your podcast, Conquista tu Mundo. My name is Johnny Abraham. I'm very happy to be here today because I have someone who is a specialist in human behavior. He studies relationships a lot, just like I do, but with much more experience. He has incredible books on different topics, from sexuality to human behavior. And even though his books have very Mexican titles, so to speak, he's Italian and a great expert on the subject. My friend Prem Dayal, welcome to Conquista tu Mundo.
How are you?
Very well. I'm very happy to be here, to have a new old friend. We're already new old friends. We have a lot in common. You have a bit more experience than I do, but honestly, I see that we agree on many things. So I think this conversation is going to be very enriching for the people who listen to us. Also for me, without a doubt. Well, let's get started. First of all, for those who don't know you, I would like you to tell us a bit about your background and how you came to be here with us today. Even though you have many books and so on, you must also have many experiences that brought you here.
Basically, what I share in my courses, workshops, and so on, basically, it's a human experience that in the last half of my life has been summed up as a spiritual experience. But I was born as, first of all, I am a child of my times. I was a teenager in the 70s. I was shaped in Italy, in Europe, by the myths of free love, freedom, creativity, social justice, equality, alliance, and so on. And my goals are typical of my generation. It wasn't about success. It wasn't about money. It was fundamentally about friendship, love, enjoying life, enjoying it. And I was a wanderer. I was a classic hippie from the 70s. I used to travel. I liked to travel by hitchhiking. I spent my time like that, and I would sleep on the street. Even though I came from a petty bourgeois family, I don't know. They expected me to become a lawyer.
Well, or I could have been something extraordinary. A judge, my God. And instead, I was just a damn bum who didn't want to do anything.
You practice the dolce far niente. The dolce e per far niente, the grace of doing nothing. Exactly that. I loved it. Freedom was my religion. Yeah, y ahora say that was the beginning of my search. Even if I could never have thought it was already a spiritual search. It was more a search in psychedelia than a spiritual search. And I had always associated spirituality with religions, which didn't attract me at all. I've written a book, one of my books called La Autobiografía de un Pinche Güey, where I tell the first part of my life. While wandering, I had a problem. How do I support myself? Because clearly my family couldn't support me. There was no way I was going to support myself. Then by chance, I discovered a Peruvian mime and one of many wandering travelers who performed their talents on the street, okay? And I didn't act as a mime. One of the first travelers to Punta Ax, who did street mime and took a course, met him in another city, and now by chance, met him again in another city. And then, now by chance, long story short, I took this course at night and discovered that everything that was difficult for others was completely natural for me. And I said, no way. I found the opportunity of my life, a gold mine. And I got into it like a total maniac, just like I still am. In a few months, I became a street mime. It was perfect for me. I traveled Europe, performed on the street, earned what I needed, and did my thing. Life on the street. I took the money I needed, and that was it for me. What an awesome life! So, until I realized I had talent, I was noticed. I moved into theater. I quickly became a playwright, then a choreographer, a director. And for 2 years, I was the assistant director for a Nobel Prize winner in literature, Dario Fo. Therefore, after that, let's say my adventure had been successful. I mean, I had achieved what I wanted, to be free, to be an artist. I never thought I was an artist. I never thought about being an artist. But I discovered that I was one. But the problem is that I was tremendously unhappy. So a brilliant life on the outside and a messed up life on the inside. And therefore, I started searching first in the field of Western psychology. And then inevitably my eyes fiarono a Oriente. I was fortunate enough to stumble upon the master who was meant for me. And I began a new life, a new journey, a new life, a new journey. That master was Osho.
What kind of master was he? So people can understand.
He is a master. Obviously, if you search for Osho on the internet, there are terrible things said about him. He has a very bad reputation. Osho is one of those great masters that you can count on the fingers of one hand, with a big difference, which is that he is contemporary. So he uses language that's very easy to understand. Okay? The difference between a master and a teacher is made very clear. The distinction must be made very clearly between a master and a teacher. The master, the true master, does not give teachings. The master is the catalyst for a human potential that you have and that you generally don't see. And when you approach a master, you can recognize him. That's why it's often said that the master is a mirror. Through the master, you see something about yourself that is hidden from you.
And when you see it, the search begins.
I like it. I mean, just to make it clear.
And to have this concept, the teacher, as you mentioned, is someone who comes to give you information you didn't have or something you didn't master.
We said that the teacher usually communicates to you what he has learned. The master shares who he is with you. Exactly. It's totally different.
And with that, he helps you develop who you are.
Exactly. You like it, yes. Not to adapt to a teaching. Instead, he gives you the freedom to discover who you are. I love it.
And then you come to him and you start this search or this process of finding yourself and your true potential.
Do I understand it correctly? Put that way, you have to pay attention to the words. Because we usually see the search for oneself always from the intellectual's point of view as a logical process. It's not a process. A logical process. Searching for yourself is a bit like opening up to love. At a certain point, love arrives. It's not an action. It's not the result of a logical procedure that leads you to love. On the contrary, it's surrendering to the irrational aspect of life and having an experience that religious people call God. And we lay people can call it mystery, for example, or whatever. And what does it look like when you surrender to that experience of love? You go from the first thing, searching, to entering a space of harmony and inner peace. Because when you enter a space of love, you eliminate all internal conflicts. If there are conflicts within yourself, love is impossible. Love and conflicts don't go together when there are conflicts inside yourself. Everything we call love is a fiction. It's not love. That's the reason why all relationships end badly. It's strange, isn't it? We know that love has an expiration date. No, if it has an expiration date, it's not love. I mean, love itself doesn't. Relationships can have an expiration date. Contracts, partnerships, they can have an expiration date. Love enters a dimension that goes beyond time, which is called eternity. Okay? It's not part of the logical aspect of life.
And here, I'm going to interrupt you because you said something very beautiful and I want to like have some coffee. Yes, perfect. We're having Carajillo here at Carajillo Mazari. So cheers, cheers.
The conversation and the I screwed myself over. You give me.
We've reached the point where I wanted to bring you in because I know you have a lot of expertise there. And that's what a lot of people in my audience are looking for, which is why can't I find love? Why don't I have good relationships? Why do my relationships fail? Right? So we're going to start getting into it, but I want to go back and emphasize some very important things you said, which I also say in other ways. And I think I like sharing that perspective. First, you say, I surrendered to love. I connected to love. I gave myself to love. And a lot of people see that as God. It's true. And it doesn't matter what word you use for it, because many times we see God as if he's above us or that love is outside of us. When in reality, I truly believe that God and love, or whatever you want to call it, are inside of us. That's one. Two, many people stop believing in love, Dayal, because of bad experiences, without realizing that what they experienced in that relationship was never love. It was a clash of wounds, a choice made out of fear, emotional survival, and many things that we can end up projecting. So stay here, because what I want to explore with my friend Prem Dayal will, like, what love looks like. How do you connect with it? And everything that isn't love, well, filter it out a little, right? So, but you're going to say throw.
Look, it's not that hard. If you can't stand yourself, if you treat yourself badly, in other words, if you don't love yourself, if you don't love yourself, if you don't love yourself, how can you think you can love someone else? How can you think about having a love story if you're starting from a place of inner conflict? This connects to where we left off about me, about my experience with inner peace and harmony. My change has been exactly this. When I realized in my life, through a very powerful moment of realization, what in the spiritual field are called satoris, a clear one, understanding the fact that I had never loved myself in my life. I'm telling you very simply, through a process I was going through in India, I realized through some words, I realized that I had never been patient with myself. He told me, be patient with yourself. The reward will appear. I feel the same thing coming. Doing the same thing. In my 35 years of what I can call a shitty life, because that's what it had been, with all my wandering, with all my joy, I realized that I had never been patient with myself. I had always been a damn bastard. Always pushing myself, criticizing myself, and judging myself, comparing myself to others. There was always an internal conflict. I had never been patient. And if you're not patient with yourself, it means you don't love yourself. And realizing that, never for any reason, not even for a moment in my whole life, had I loved myself. It was a revolution in my life. Okay, but I'm going to go there. But here's what comes next in our relationships with others, I know. But I want to reach people on this journey we're opening up.
In a way that's a little bit illogical, but so they can go through this with us. Why to begin with? We're in conflict with ourselves, and it's simple.
Because you are disconnected from yourself. Why? Why? Because you live according to your mind, and you are not your mind. Your mind is a Western phenomenon that has been created by society. When you are born a blank slate. It's not that you are Johnny Abraham. Johnny Abraham is the result of your education, your family conditioning, the place where you lived, your social class, your religious environment, and so on, and so on, and so on. And you live as Johnny Abraham. But in reality, you are something else. And it's inevitable that Johnny Abraham is in conflict with his nature, which is something different from being Johnny Abraham, Juan Perez, or anyone else. Anyone. We're just using your name as an example. I'm talking about human beings. You think you're Juan Perez, but you're not Juan Perez. And you act like Juan Perez without being Juan Perez. The conflict is inevitable. There can't be peace with yourself. There's a constant conflict between who you truly are and who you try to be.
So, let's see if we're starting to get it. At birth, you simply are. And all of society and your family and culture and marketing and comparison and schools and everything, they guide you or push you to create a character called Juan Perez. Perez forms a character with a mask, with mechanisms, with everything to belong to his society, to function. I don't know if in your system that's called the ego, right?
It's this person, exactly. And the idea you have of yourself, exactly.
And so you go through life disconnected from yourself. You identify as a lawyer, which is always the first question. Who are you? I'm a lawyer. You're much more than a lawyer, obviously. I mean, I don't know. I'm a woman. Yes, but you're much more than a gender. And then, in a way, you sense that there's something more in you. And that character fights with your essence.
It's not that there's something more. It's just that that's not who you are. The spiritual search begins when you realize that you never were who you wanted to be. Okay, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. Before starting, I was telling you about the monologue I used to do some time ago. Based on my book, I Don't Care Anymore. There I tell the story. Okay. That in Mexico, hypothetically, as happens in Copenhagen, for example. There's a hospital where both the families from Polanco and the families from Tepito go to give birth to their children, right? Of course, on the same day, a family from Polanco and one from Tepito arrive. The pregnant ladies. Que, in there, give birth to beautiful babies. And in the nursery, there's a witch who switches. He puts Tepito's baby's wristband on Polanco's baby, and Polanco's baby's wristband on Tepito's baby, Polanco's baby's right arm on Pepito's baby.
All extraordinary, as an aside. For those watching us from other countries, Tepito is a neighborhood with a very low economic level.
Polanco is like the most expensive neighborhood in the city.
The cities, exactly.
All cities have the neighborhood, let's say, where the poor, shady people live, and another where the rich kids live. Okay. Now, when families take the kids, nobody notices. A miracle happens. The kid from Tepito becomes one from Polanco, and the kid from Polanco is one from Polanco. The kid from Polanco becomes one from Tepito. The one from Tepito goes to Tec de Monterrey, speaks 3 languages, all with that posh accent, drives his dad's Mercedes. And the one from Polanco has a taco shop in Tepito.
Hey, bro! Cool! Hell yeah, man!
So the question at the heart of the spiritual search is, are you from Polanco or are you from Tepito? Who are you? Because if you don't know who you are, you're going to live someone else's life. You're going to live a life. And if you live a life that doesn't belong to you, inevitably you'll be in conflict with yourself. And the reason why someone earns a lot of money, takes office, becomes the mayor of Zapachula, someone very important, or the president of a bank, or the president of the nation, and he's just as miserable as when he was a shoemaker. So it's not what you have on the outside that changes, okay? It's what's in here. What fuels and nourishes the conflict is the fact that you live a life that doesn't belong to you. because you live according to your mind and not according to who you are. The inner search is to discover who you are and to live in accordance with your nature and your oneness. What would that search look like in those examples to get to that essence? I mean, in those two, how does the search happen in a very simple way by observing the mind? Examples?
Para entrar a esa esencia. O sea, en esos dos.
How does the search happen? In a very simple way, by observing the mind.
Interés.
And it's simple, Johnny, interest. It's a very simple mechanism. Not logical, but it can be understood. You can see your mind, right? If you can see your mind, one thing is certain. There has to be a space between you, who sees, and your mind. This is enough to make you realize that you are not your mind. Okay. It's a bit like when you dream. If you are totally unconscious, you live in the dream, and you confuse the dream with what happens in your mind. The dream is the mind producing images, situations, etc. And if you are unconscious, you are totally identified with the dream. You can scream, cry, move your body because of something that doesn't exist in reality. When you wake up and you're half awake, you realize that this is not part of reality. You're lying in bed. So if you realize that it's a dream, this dream disappears. Now you're awake, but your mind keeps going. And then your mind tells you a lot of things. For a moment, your wife is a saint. A moment later, you want to throw her out the window. In one moment, you're a badass. In another moment, you're an idiot. Whatever happens in your mind, you believe it. Exactly like when you're sleeping. This is when the masters say, you are unconscious. You don't realize that you live in a dream. Just like when you sleep. Being conscious just means realizing that this is a dream. Okay? And staying out of it. This consciousness is able to see the mind. That's you. Stay with this. And what will come out in your life will be the manifestation of your authentic self. It's not a concept. When the teachers say, know yourself, it doesn't mean look for a new concept that you can put on your shelf of achievements. No. Enter a dimension of being where you can have an authentic experience of yourself without the interference of what you are not, which is your mind. I like it. That's it. We're going to Madrid now, I understand.
As an observer of reality,
Right? It's fate to be a sign, an observer of reality.
so that's what I want to clarify, because otherwise we wouldn't know.
The observer. This is, let's say, already a topic for the initiated. Yes, exactly. It's a mechanism. So it's not an observer of reality. Reality is external to you just as much as it is external to your mind. If your mind says, I am Juan Perez, and Juan Perez likes this, he likes this thing, this makes him wet, this makes him... A meditator knows that this is not part of reality. This is part of your mind's dream. It is something external to you. If you believe in your mind, you are at the mercy of an insane mechanism. Because, as I said before, one moment you can adore your wife. The next moment you could kill her. In one moment you can do something thoughtless because you believe you have a superpower. The next moment you could be on the verge of going to the madhouse. And you are neither one thing nor the other. Stay in the center. My latest book, the one we didn't bring you because we got distracted. I know. Yes, we owe it to you. It's called El Tai Chido, not Tai Chi. The art of being cool. Meditation is the art of being cool. You have two possibilities in life. Either live like a fool or be cool. Following every thought in your mind makes you live like a fool. Because any damn stupid thing that goes on in your mind, you follow it, you believe it. If you become a meditator, you enter this space and decide that it doesn't matter what goes on in your mind. And you remain unshakable in the center of the hurricane. And from there, finally, your intelligence can manifest without interference. Yes, you might. In a pure way. Now, the space between your intelligence is occupied by your mind. You confuse it with your mind. On the contrary, that's why people lack creativity. The mind is like a program on your computer. It's a program that society programs into you, that programs you as a Mexican, as a Catholic, as a Jew, Real Madrid fan, or any nonsense like that, okay? So that's how you function. That's not intelligence. Intelligence is being outside of this. It's about regaining innocence. To see reality as if you were seeing it for the first time, without the filter of your culture, without the filter of your mind, and to respond to reality in a creative way.
Here's where I get lost and want to clarify. Let's see if we can land this. To see life again with innocent eyes. I love that, without so much interpretation.
However, you do it, Johnny. You have looked at me, yes. Innocently. Yes, you had preconceived ideas about me, even though who knows you had seen me. Yes, you have. This is what I'm talking about. Yes.
And that's exactly why I love the subject. That's why you look at me with so much interest. I consider myself a constant learner. There's no one whose feelings I don't learn from. Like you say, someone from Polanco, someone from Tepito, a great teacher, or someone who shines shoes. I'm someone who loves connection. I love learning. I love seeing life with innocent eyes. And many times, what takes us out of being fully present? I mean, let's call it that you can correct me if I'm wrong. Well, it's the autopilot that I talk about. Living up to labels, fitting into molds, following schedules, the stress, living in life on autopilot that we designed for ourselves or that was designed for us, and the labels we have to keep living up to. Am I on the right track so far? Yes, okay. So seeing life as if you were a baby, so to speak, innocent again, being amazed by everything, enjoying everything. I think we're going to make that very clear here. What isn't so clear to me is when something complicated comes up in life, or an adversity, or a problem. What you say about responding creatively. Yes,
But I explain it very, very easily. I'll explain with a joke. I like that. What does someone buy? A blender, a tool? I like that. There's a lady who buys a blender, a kitchen appliance, and when she gets home, the cleaning lady is there. And she says, I bought this. She takes the thing out. And she realizes there's no blender instruction manual. So she says, no way, man. So she goes back to the store. She says, it's not here to get the instruction manual. When you come back, the girl is already using the device. She says, how did you do it? She says, I don't know how to read. Therefore, I have to use my intelligence. This tells you a lot about what we're talking about. If you respond to reality according to what you know, you're like someone who responds to reality using the instruction manual. But reality is always unique. It's always new. And your answers are always the same. Hey, meditation means putting the instruction manual aside. That famous idea of how things should
be aside.
It depends on the situations. In love, this works really well. If you're not innocent in love, you can't find the light. If you're not innocent, you do several things. The first thing is, you project onto the other person the ideas you have about them. So you're not making love to the other person, but to your fantasy of them. They are doing the same. And at a certain point, reality will show itself, and you'll end up disappointed. Many times in my courses, I say you never fall in love with a real person. You always fall in love with the fantasy you've created about the other person. And the proof of this is that there always comes a moment when you say to the other person, "You're not like I imagined you would be." Exactly. You had fallen in love with something you had imagined, not with something real. Okay? We don't see reality if we're not innocent. First of all, we project onto reality the ideas we have. The ideas you have are like a colored lens that transforms reality according to your mental and intellectual programming. This is the first thing. The second thing is that if your mind interferes, then it takes away your innocence. You cannot find the other. Love happens only in a moment of silence. Not during silence, in silence. Communication.
Go on a diet at 10 o'clock.
To be with the other. In silence, I mean what is happening between you and me right now. At certain moments, when you don't worry about the interview and you relax, and you're just with me, something happens. It's a kind of falling in love. So neither of us is interested. We're not gay. I mean, we're not interested. But listen, there is love between us. Love. We're talking about love, not a relationship. And love can only happen in a moment of silence. If the mind is involved, there's immediately a separation between you and me. Yes, I totally agree. That's the thing now. Yes.
Actually, as you mention it, it's so people understand what I go through and typically experience with my guests. I don't want to talk much about myself, but at the table, I'm usually the one who asks the most questions, shows the most interest, and listens closely. And in my mind, there's only that silence that I'm experiencing within myself right now. All right. Just listening without judging, planning, or thinking about how I'll respond.
And it makes a lot of sense to me because I had never seen it that way. And do you know why you find it interesting to talk to me right now? Because I absolutely don't care at all about looking good or about what I'm going to say, of course. Whether I'm going to make a mistake or have an answer, I'm totally relaxed and I'm enjoying my friend Johnny as we go along like this. Exactly, same here. And this is the condition through which love happens. If you don't know this dimension of silence and inner relaxation, love cannot happen. It can only happen by accident for a moment. For some reason, you had one drink too many, a little shot of whatever you mixed in here. It's true. 3 very strong things. That's what I'm saying. Choose that liquor.
Next time, give them an estimate. Okay, I won't laugh at you anymore. It's fine.
And then you might stumble in this space. After that, the mind comes in. Should I do the example? Yes, I use it when I teach the sexuality workshop. I give a workshop called Who Knows? Maybe people might be interested. The gift of conscious sexuality. We are the only beings on Earth. We are the only beings on the planet who can transform a biological act into art. For example, eating, we eat like animals. But we were able to transform a basic biological need, a mere obligation to eat, into an art, the culinary art. Religions haven't repressed culinary art very much, so it had a chance to develop. Sex, on the other hand, has been tremendously repressed and did not have the chance to develop into an art. It has remained somewhat childish or animalistic. So that's why it's called the gift of conscious sexuality. And the example I give, I forgot it because I started to say, what? It happens again. God. No, the example from the workshop regarding the connection, that was it. I didn't remember the example I give because it's something that may have happened to all of us. You meet for some reason. You're relaxed. You go and meet a young lady. Obviously, it's just an example. We're two men. We're using a young lady as an example, but it could be the other way around. So for some reason, She meets you. Maybe it's a joke. She understands it perfectly well, like few people get your sense of humor. She responds in the right way. How cool, something starts and she offers you something. You go for a walk, there on the moon, she takes you by the hand and like that, and everything becomes magical. There isn't. Imagine you're going north. She's going south, therefore there's no future. There's no moment. Just a moment out of time, and this touch of the hand, you look into each other's eyes, and a joke pops into your head, and something else. Ha! And your movements become dances, your words become poetry, and everything works perfectly well. And you almost feel like kissing. And then the mind comes in. He says, no, I didn't get on, that's love. No, that one. I'm just going to sleep with her. The magic is gone. She, on the other hand, is going to say, what a player I've been with. I'm letting go too soon. He bored me. I always tell myself, never give it up on the first try. Politics got involved. And love went away. Until a moment before, there was no mind. There was the moon, there was the joke, there was something. And they would come down like this, like drunk people. They weren't drunk, not chemically drunk. They were spiritually drunk, like the saints. Saints are spiritually drunk until the mind comes in. The logical mind, the project. I'd better look good. I'll do the snake move on her, like she did to me on the plate. Or too sensitive. She's going to think I'm gay. Bullshit, they can sense in you. And she's on the other side, on the other side. And this is what I mean when I talk about the mind, that the mind is incompatible with love. I'm talking about this. People wonder, why do relationships always end badly? Because you don't know what love is about. You think you love. You confuse love with need. You say to the other person, I love you so much. I need you. But if you need me, you can't love me because you need me. If I need you, I can't love you. You become a commodity to me because you are something I need. To have you or keep you, I'm willing to do anything. Lie to you, manipulate, block you, imprison you, beat you, kill you. Because I need you. All the things that are incompatible with love. From what I observe, I don't see love anywhere. Do you also think the relationship between parents and children is love? The relationship between parents and children?
Whoever it is, but children do. Good parents towards their children?
I want to think so because up to a certain point they give themselves completely. And then the control starts. They give themselves completely. I don't know what you mean.
They take care of them, feed them, bring them into circles. The Red Cross can do that too.
That doesn't mean loving a child. So let's start with your meaning of love. Respect. Respect. I want to think that good parents listen to him and don't have expectations of him. Be patient with him. Accept his mistakes. Get into discussions. How many parents are truly like that? How many are capable of doing this?
Of arguing with their child?
Not to argue, to listen, to be interested. Yes, to have a dialogue. To be interested, to spend some time with them. Yes. In my definition of a good father, theoretically, but I work almost every weekend with a fairly large number of people, and we work on childhood issues, and I hear the stories. Yes. When are things going well for you? The father and the mother always try to manipulate each other according to their fears. There is no such thing as a perfect father. Now we're talking. I'm not saying, but when we talk about love, we have to understand what we're talking about. There isn't a person who is not mature cannot love. A person who is afraid of expectations cannot love. Love is a spiritual aspect of life. But here I have a relationship. To bring it down to earth a little.
What does that look like in your reality? In the way you live love? Because from there, we can bring it down to earth with children, partners, and so on. And right now, I think we're still keeping it too abstract.
I want you to tell me how it looks in practice. It's love is an inner spiritual dimension that when it awakens inside you, it spreads like a perfume around you. You can't direct it to just one part. You can't say, I love my children and the rest can go to hell. That's not love, obviously. I mean, you have it, you are it. Love is a dimension of the spiritual being that when it awakens, it envelops everything that is. I don't know the technicians. How could they not love? It's obvious. Once this dimension of spiritual love awakens in your heart, even if you want not to love, you can't help but love. Of course. You become a prisoner of love, yes. And then, when this love is found, when among all the people and things you love, because you are love, you also find a person with whom this love can find a more intimate form.
Then this beautiful mold is formed. But here comes the big complication in the equation. We are all born as love. We are love, yes. But we protect ourselves because of pain, because of society, because of everything we've already mentioned. We protect ourselves. Because many people think they love, but they aren't loving. They're needy, they're dependent, they're hurting, they're neurotic, hurting, manipulating even the parents themselves. You said it, without bad intentions. All the time, it's manipulation and conditioning. If you do it, I'll give it to you. If you don't, I won't. And then,
Or just shut up because you're bothering whoever. But excuse me if I interrupt you. Do you realize what it means? If you do, I give you. If you don't do, I don't give you. That's blackmail. That's why. There are people who use blackmail. The mafia. Okay. So parents behave like mobsters with their children. Okay. When they're not violent. All right. Okay. Yes, he's already gone. But you also have to see what our starting point is. And that also happens with couples.
but before you get to falling in love, there are adjustments, blah, blah, blah. People. I mean, what I see out there, what I call modern love. But actually, it's something that's happened for many generations, is that people get together in relationships. For many reasons, survival, status, money, wounds. Not necessarily for love. I know what it looks like in everyday life when you find someone whose love resonates with yours. Because you have many students, patients, and so do I. And everyone comes in through the same door. I'm badly programmed, or I'm programmed for survival. I want to fill myself with love, but I don't know how. And even when I do know how, which is something that has happened to me throughout my life, you meet people who either don't know how to receive or don't know how to reciprocate. And then maybe you also start to feel like, yes, okay, no, I don't judge you or anything, but I can't connect with you.
I have learned love has awakened inside me and the ability to manifest it. Sexually, I have also learned with my eyes closed for hours looking inside myself. Not looking outside myself. Both things. The sexual aspect might also seem strange. I've learned about love. It awakened inside me by looking within myself, not outside. And when you find it inside yourself, the other person's condition becomes absolutely relevant. Love, it's not a barter, an exchange. Love is an overflowing of overflow. I am so rich in something that I want to share it with you. I don't expect anything in return. I thank you. I thanked you for coming here. That you invited me. What? Because it's my way of sharing all that I have. To share it with you, with the friends here, with those who are going to watch us. So, love is an experience, a dimension of richness, of being an emperor. It's not a dimension of poverty. It's not. Love doesn't belong to those who seek love. Love belongs to those who give love. Love, when you look for it, and everyone looks for it. Look for it. Look for it. Baby, please, outside. They search. They try to complete themselves through someone else. That's why dependency is born. Yes, and they look for something. So, you're a poor guy looking for love, and you find another poor guy looking for love, and two poverties meet. And imagine what a beautiful marriage that would be, man. Two poverties. It's not a small fortune, it's a great poverty. Yeah. It's different when you found something inside yourself. Whether the other person is there or not doesn't make much difference. If the other person is there, you're grateful because you have so much. You don't know what to do with it. But here's something interesting.
There will be people who listen to us and say, I love myself. I'm fine on my own. I'm full of love. I'm connected to my love. I am love. I have a lot to give, and not so much in material sense. Gratitude. No.
A hug. In the city, you see that you confuse love with what you have to give. No.
But what happens when you say, hey, I'm the one loving, but for example, my partner, then you'd have to see why people choose people like that, or why we choose people like that. They don't love me.
Or I don't feel loved by that person. So you can't confuse love with bartering anymore. No, but there has to be something.
It has to be reciprocal, because then you can't. What happens when someone loves and the other manipulates? For example, we said it was like the mafia. Find another partner, okay? But then,
Okay? But then, if you don't like the person you're with, why do you try to change them?
you don't change them, but you know that love just isn't going to be there anymore. I mean, it's just that in your...
It simply means that this person is not capable of loving. But you don't need to. Because you're so full of optimism that if you like it, even though the person out of fear tends to manipulate you, what it is. And this happens, which comes from profound doubt. If you accept the person as they are, the person will be like the lake. There are no evil people. There are people who have fears, people who are more educated. But if you accept people just as they are, people start to change too. And anyway, if a person sees that they're manipulating you and you don't like that because you want someone of a higher caliber, they change. What's the problem?
Okay, but here we get into something, to a nuance of this modern love where people, and here I want you to tell me what true self-love looks like, because a lot of people intellectualize what you just said. And so like me, I see that maybe here you fight with me in a really ugly way. You emotionally blackmail me. So I change and change and change and change and change. And I understand that the world out there, people in general are very afraid, as we said in this episode, but everything has also become very disposable. And so what's the nuance between understanding, hey, from love, I can change partners? I'm changing partners just because they don't meet my expectations and I justify it as if it's love.
Mobility, most people, the first thing is changing partners is fun. Obviously, novelty is something you experience in your life. Having only one partner, that's a very poor person. In fact, when you're young, from adolescence onward, you should take the opportunity to meet many people in order to, obviously, you won't be left with the whole range. Yes, you're ambitious. Yes. So besides, I enjoy changing things up. Well, there's this thing where you intellectualize love, like you said, and then what confuses things is what love really is and whether I'm still following love. It's finding a person with whom there's a good exchange, meaning I give you a lot, and you also give me a lot. That's what you usually see. And all partnerships sooner or later start fighting. So all marriages end badly. Well, if you want, you have to distinguish between marriage and love. Marriage is an existential conflict. It's not something spiritual. You come to an agreement. There are two people who like each other, who trust each other, For a certain period, they have a certain attraction that, as we know, starts to fade after a few years because that's how it's been since the dawn of time. It's known, right? So, but I trust you. You trust me. We have good genes. We're going to have good children. If we want to have good children, and if we have good children, the family becomes eternal. But that doesn't mean that our love, as we knew it, will stay eternal. It's normal that at a certain point, love takes other forms. But love on another level stays. How do you love a partner? Because we have a task, which is to raise our children. Love is not connected to what we call marriage, okay? Yes, there can be love without marriage. Of course.
I would say, but would you say that both self-love and romantic love, according to everything I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just to keep clarifying, and that's also what I believe. Hopefully, that's the case. You could also call it an emotional connection with yourself and with the other person.
If you have a connection with yourself, not emotional, because that's something else. If you have a connection with yourself, you also have a connection with everyone else. You have to understand what the masters are saying. If not, then they just sound like the words of old freaks who say things that don't make sense. When the masters tell you that there is no separation between you and me, they're not saying it's not an abstract concept. It's an experience. Yes, if you are totally connected with yourself, you are also totally connected with everyone else and with everyone. And these others, are there some with whom, like in our case, we have an intellectual affinity, we enjoy talking? We share the same sense of humor, and that's how you become friends. And others with whom you can have a coffee or not even that, and others with whom you can even start a family. But nothing changes. The work is always inward. When you truly find the connection with yourself, when you are at peace with yourself, when you respect yourself unconditionally, when you accept yourself, it's not so hard to accept unconditionally as well.
Even if you're not with him, it's difficult. Even if you don't move beyond that in your relationship with that person. What is this? That is what we talked about before. When you are connected to yourself, you connect with others and accept them as they are. You no longer want to change them. That doesn't mean you have to put up with things or bad treatment, right? No, obviously not. You don't want to change them. You can walk away from there with love, knowing that he is caught up in his own fear, in his own process, in his own life. But that doesn't mean you have to hate him. But knowing that, well, as you said, it doesn't create affinity. And that you're going to look for someone you have affinity with. And you're not there, what should I change? Because then, well, up to that point, we're fine.
Trying to change a person is an illusion. If you fall in love with someone, it's for who they are. So why try to change them later? Now we'll discuss this fascinating topic.
For teaching purposes, I see relationships as divided into several stages. First, when people meet, the cycle begins. Then comes falling in love. And then what you mentioned happens when this fantasy fades away. The adjustments, adaptation, difficult conversations, and from there, it can develop into something that lasts over time. In a harmonious and loving way, or you enter a period of grief and the relationship ends. If we're all looking for love, Dayal, and we all want love, why? Usually you fall in love and get attached to the person who doesn't embody love. The one who replies slowly, who sees you every 5 days, who has more plans than you do and doesn't make you a priority. Do you keep staying with someone who is unfaithful? I mean, why can't we see all those red flags you were talking about earlier?
Yeah. Look, at the core, this is what's happening. We look for love in the wrong place, or we look outside ourselves. I know, but if you're already there, then it means you're not connected to yourself. No, obviously, if you are connected to yourself, you might like it. The conquest. So you look for an animal that's hard to hunt, and it falls, and you have fun with it. You don't suffer through it. Of course, if you need love and you look for it outside and you get involved with a person who's a hard animal to hunt, you suffer. In this case, you're not a good hunter. You fall in love. Of course, you're like someone who needs to eat. You don't approach hunting as an art. You do it out of necessity. Hunting, if you do it out of necessity, for you to enjoy it, hunting has to be done as an art. Not because you have to eat, otherwise it becomes the same thing. And for love, it's the same. Then you are worthy of finding love when you no longer need it.
Yes, yes, I agree with you. Ironically, that's when it happens because you already love yourself. I've been putting off asking you to tell us what self-love looks like according to Prem Dayal so that we can kind of wrap things up. But notice how important it is that when we go out on dates looking for what we haven't connected with inside and haven't given ourselves, we go out searching to numb, to be numbed, to cover or hide all that with someone else. And ironically, we end up getting hooked on the challenge of winning someone over. Okay, let's think about people who say no on the dates. Everything seemed fine, everything was going well. The infatuation felt fine too. We got into the relationship and we started seeing each other differently. And then the fighting, the arguments, and the discussions began. So what happens there?
So many things happen. One thing, the first that comes to mind to mention is this. When love, the date, the thing, the infatuation, the romance, the war, you're there. There's no future yet. I mean, it's something that happens. A game in the moment. Then you say, okay, we become a couple right there. It's over because now there's a future. And if there's a future, politics come in, your expectations come in, your fears come in, and then conflict becomes inevitable. Before, up until it becomes a relationship, everything was going well. There were no expectations about the other person. Because like I told you before, one goes north, one goes south. Everything is easy. Oh, there's no future. You can love each other completely. You have nothing to hide. Because you're not going to see him again. You're not going to see her again. But when you know you're building a future together, politics start to come into play. And one should learn to live relationships as if they were always ending at this moment. And that's how I live my current relationship with my current partner, whom I've been with for 20 years now. And I assure you, I had never managed to be with a woman for more than 3 years. I told you, this is practically my 8th marriage, plus my very fortunate life in the realm of love stories. With this partner, we never decided to live together. We never decided how we were going to handle our finances. We never decided how to fix anything. We simply lived moment by sosa. We simply lived moment by moment, knowing that at any moment you never know what's going to happen in life. Conquering each moment as if we were meeting for the first time. This is the way to love. If instead of seeing the woman, you start seeing your wife or your girlfriend, you're screwed. Instead of seeing the man you fell in love with, you start to see your boyfriend or your husband, you're screwed. And it's the same with children. If you see, instead of seeing the child, you see your child, yeah, you're screwed.
You project your expectations, so it can't be different.
Real relationships are political, though many here would call them loyal.
Okay, it sounds beautiful. You're probably making it work. But you're talking to me about not planning where to live or the finance, everything here, when we talked about it from the beginning. The whole culture tells you to do it. But then, how do you move forward in life? And how do you function in this system? Which, well, here we are without being able to have those conversations and make those decisions, because some people, as you said, may see you as a hippie, but I see you as why. But people who think it's like how nice living one day. In fact, I send a kiss to my wife because that's our phrase. What if you can't take things one day at a time when planning is needed, when there are kids or multiple things going on? That happened.
You can plan things related to survival. The whole animal aspect of life is planned. Oh, of course, we think about tomorrow and set some money aside for future repairs. How do we do it? Which school do we enroll the child in? All these things are planned. Well, that's the animal aspect. The spiritual aspect. You can't plan the spiritual aspect. It lives in the magic of this present moment. It belongs to the mystery of existence. The problem for a human being is not being human. No animal has the problem that a human being has. All animals live in the present. They probably don't know anything about love, and they follow their animal instincts. We mix both things. We want to find the spiritual aspect in animal planning. For you, one thing is to plan. One thing is to live according to your planning. Your planning is a drug. In a relationship, you can't plan. You can plan a bad mood, but you can't plan love, right? And when I talk about, now, when in this case we use the word love, when we predict the meeting between two people who continue until the end, because love, as I said, is a dimension of being, there are two ways to live for humanity: to live consciously or to live unconsciously. Many people would like to live in a place, in a world of peace, where there is no conflict, where people don't take advantage of each other. To achieve this, you need to do something with yourself, not with others. And then this changes relationships. If you want to try it as a challenge, to have a wise and genuinely loving relationship with the person, you have to do something with yourself. You have to look for the few teachers who have taught something about love and consciousness. Otherwise, it's impossible. You can't control love through tricks. And the people who ask you, who say, give me a trick so I can do it, there is no trick. It's an art. If you go into it with a fresh mind, it's an art.
I agree. And it's a state of being. You live in love or in fear all the time. Or like you said, consciousness or unconsciousness. I totally agree with you. However, let me ask you something here. How is it that even though you live in love, you say you've had 8 marriages? At what point did you say, I can't find it here anymore, or I can't live with this person anymore?
When I haven't always been a conscious person, and I'm still not presenting myself here as some great enlightened master. I'm just some regular guy like you, no more, no less. But obviously, I've grown throughout my life. And before I started my journey, my spiritual awakening, I had horrible relationships. Beautiful and horrible at the same time. And I was always someone who liked being theatrical. And I've met women with whom I shared that. In fact, I was the kind of guy who would start fights that involved the whole condominium. I mean, it's not that. Now I want to say I've had fun. I have. Yes, of course. But I've also suffered more. Yes, enjoying the show and enjoying, it seems, the essence, the presence of the liquid, litigation. And then it changed. More and more. And throughout my journey, I've met women with whom I got along well for a while. And then I lost interest. Women I could be with for a while, and then, I'm just not interested anymore. Okay. And the relationship I have now. And no, you don't have to pick a day like this is the right one. No. And every day, I'm surprised that we still get along. We're happy to wake up next to each other, to give each other some kisses, to always tell the same damn jokes that make us laugh. That's how it is. And to feel the sweetness of this thing that continues over time, this familiarity, this inner relaxation. I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for her. It's a key part of my maturity. It's not that I don't like women, it's just that I like women. I see beautiful women, etc. But I wouldn't change. Yeah. What I have, the beautiful, quiet poetry I have with the woman who is with me, who accompanies me. To bring me on an adventure, I think about it, and it's very far from my mind. This didn't come as I don't make any effort. It didn't come from some ethic or morality. It came from a natural maturation of my being.
And it's specifically when you say if you live in love, you don't want to burn anything here anymore. I have a question because I understand people's concerns. I want you to tell me how it feels and how it's done.
Love is something that comes with maturity. The ability and people are usually not immature. The specialists, the psychologists, the ones who really know, not like me who just says nonsense. Those who really know say that it's very difficult to find a human being who is psychologically more mature than a 12 or 14-year-old. And it may seem like an exaggeration, okay? Take a good look at people's lives. I don't want to say yours because I don't want to drag you into this, but I have those. Look at your life, and you'll see that you have fears that only a child could have. You're dependent, the way only a child could be dependent. You have illusions, the way only a child could have illusions. And you have many aspects of your psychology. You're jealous the way only a child. Don't touch my mom. Don't mess with me, man. Like if your mom leaves, you're lost. You're a man. She's a real woman. What do you care? You lose the damn guy. Let the damn guy or the damn girl go to hell. There are 9 billion of us in the world. Half of that. There are a lot of people. People come to me desperate. Why? Because you've lost a man you hate. Or a woman you hate. This means not being mature, not to say being idiots. Now, love is not for idiots. It's not for fools. It's not for immature people. It's for spiritually mature people. If people become physically mature at 14, the definition is complex. The Romans would send you to the army at 14 because they considered you an adult. No, this doesn't mean you're an adult on a spiritual level. Oh, for you to become an adult on a spiritual level and be able to enjoy the glory that is only accessible to human beings, which is love, creativity, and a sense of humor, you have to become mature. And that's what all teachers worthy of that name teach. If you want to be happy, look for teachers worthy of that name and let yourself be taught what the trick is. If not, get ready to live a life.
What are the repeated elements? The sense of humor.
They are all the things that animals don't have. Those are the spiritual aspects. Poetry, art, creativity, the sense of humor, laughter. Have you ever seen a donkey say to a cow, "I'm going to watch the sunset. I have a joke that my body told me. It's a little heavy, but what can you do?" No, never. They don't know that joy. And we were raised like farm animals, small. In what way? The only thing they teach you is how to become the best possible product in the slave market. How can you look better? Like on the showcase of life. No one taught you how to be happy. And the things that make you happy are creativity, joy, jokes, love. These are the things that make you happy. Yes, they teach you math, but they don't teach you music. Math helps you to be an efficient animal, and music helps you to be happy. Yes.
Damn fairy garment. Tell him.
Damn! I mean, awesome, right?
If we're talking about how maturing is super important, we all know this on a rational level, but on an emotional, spiritual level, like you were, Paul, they can understand it. Breakups, grief, crises, those heartbreaks. Whether you didn't get along or you did get along with that person. How much do they contribute to this?
Losing a person, whether you lose them because a relationship ends, because of a betrayal, or because someone dies, causes pain. Pain is part of life. Here, I don't teach people not to suffer. I teach how to deal well with a part of life that is pain. And the pain of losing. You have experienced the famous 7-year mark in a relationship. The relationship goes into crisis. Your partner falls in love with someone else. It's clear that you feel devastated, even if you understand that it can happen. It hurts. Now, one thing, if you're immature, you fall into a tremendous depression. You're identified. There's a part of you that can't find itself anymore because the other person completed it. So you're in a state of pain. If you're a mature, conscious person, yes, you can feel the pain that in the morning the person is no longer there without their jokes. Of course you feel it, but this isn't going to destroy your life. This isn't going to take away your coolness. You're going to feel it. Your face is going to look a little sadder. It's going to have more charm because of this, because sadness gives charm. The person who's always cheerful is good for spending a couple of nice evenings with you at the bar. A person who doesn't know sadness is not someone you can fall in love with. So you can experience sadness, you can experience pain without letting them control you. This is the difference. Once again, John Lee, for those who are listening to us. To live life intelligently as a human being and not as an animal. Efficient. Go as a human being. It's an art. And to learn an art, you haven't to learn an angel. You have to find a teacher. So if people are interested in not suffering anymore, or not destroying their own life and the lives of others with their relationships, look for a teacher who can teach you to be aware of things. That's what I do, John. From morning to night. That's what I'm doing right now. When you discover something tremendously important in life, the only thing you want to do is share it with others. Do you remember? And that's what I do, and I see the results. Of course, I don't have a magic wand, but I definitely see people in a process of blossoming, of their being, their heart, their love, and their joy for life.
Of the ability to enjoy themselves, which in the end is a virtuous cycle. Not all of us are learning, and there are people who still haven't learned those things, and we can teach them. Or we're all at different points in the process and on the path. The important thing is not to go on autopilot and stay stuck in the programming we were given as kids, because we're already seeing that as adults it doesn't work for us. All that crisis, all that friction, all those things we go through when we don't like our job, when we don't like the relationships we have, when we don't even like our own body. They're telling us that we need to look inward to connect with ourselves and start from there to improve our lives. First, how we are with ourselves, how we feel, and from there, everything gets better. You would say, or rather, what does self love look like for you? Yeah. We've built some things, but in everyday life, people who need to go to work, who are in a relationship, who can't just go meditate for months, whatever it is, what does self love look like in real life?
There's still self love. Unfortunately, many times it is. It's interpreted as respect for your own self. Self love means I am Juan Perez. Don't you dare offend the Perez family. I have self love. I am who I am. I am Catholic. Don't you dare come with your Buddhist freak nonsense or whatever. I have self love. I am Mexican, and having self love means defending the Mexican border, the Mexican flag. This is self love. The self love of the ego, the self love that creates wars. Yes, when you have that kind of self love, it puts you against others. Self love, who knows? Maybe it would be better to call it love towards oneself and something else. It's what we talked about at the beginning of our conversation. It's made of unconditional acceptance of yourself, just as you are, trust in existence, which corresponds to trust in God. I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in a transcendent God. I'm not religious in the sense that I don't belong to any religion, but I am religious.
Well, I always like to tell people,
You believe in God, but you don't trust Him. Here, the people who ask you don't trust in God, they trust in the supposed trick you can give them to manipulate reality. They don't trust in God. And I say, you trust in God. You believe in God, but you don't trust in God. And I don't believe in God, but I trust in Him. Total acceptance, total trust in existence, total relaxation. It comes as a consequence because you're not relaxed simply because you don't accept yourself. There's an inner conflict, right? You can't even sleep anymore. You have to take a pill to sleep and then a pill to wake up afterwards, you know? So this is self-love, total acceptance. To know the magic of this present moment, to know the tricks of the masters that allow you not to be a victim of your mind's foolishness, of your mind's madness. This love for yourself. When you are able to love yourself unconditionally, relaxed, that's when you enter the dimension of love. Because the first step of love is love for yourself, not for your ego, not for your culture, not for your nationality, not for your family name. Love for yourself corresponds to love for God. Then you enter the dimension of love, and there, for the first time, you can find what you are looking for. And if you handle the master's trick well, your love can become eternal. You can be with yourself forever. You can experience the sweetness of an intimacy that becomes deeper and deeper. It's beautiful. She's beautiful. Both are beautiful. The adventure of loving many people, of riding through many meadows, it's beautiful. And it's also beautiful, the intimacy that you create with your own partner. Yes. Both things change. It's not that one is better than the other. Both are beautiful, and there's a time for each thing. And you don't decide when that time is. It's existence that decides it in love making. It's impossible for you to make love with someone unless you step aside and let God do it through you. Otherwise, you don't know what it really is. Love is a creative act. It's not the execution of a skill. At work, it's necessary for you to know a skill and put it into practice. In love, it's not like being a sex worker. You are an artist, and God knows it. Trust me. When you go, and I am an artist too. I am always in front of the audience. And yes, I have been an artist. I have been a theater artist, as I think I told you. Oh, a good artist. When you step onto the stage, it's true that you know the script, but you create it in the moment. You don't just repeat a task. The audience pays you and comes to the show, not to see some poor guy just doing his homework. It's a painful sight to see some poor guy work. The guy, the spectator, pays for a ticket to see someone exposed, vulnerable, fragile, who creates something. In the moment, he becomes a channel. He's not there anymore. It's not Juan Perez acting. Juan Perez, at least on stage, Juan Perez disappears and God appears. That's why being on stage, being an artist becomes difficult. And the fact that at least I can say, I have been an artist and I have survived thanks to the fact that at least the damn hour and a half that I was on stage, I was the damn guy who tortured me all the other. 24, 23 hours of the day.
I've been there, and you stop performing from that place. You become a channel. There are things you say that you don't even know where they come from. You create something and you fall in love with that very thing.
Yes. Now, we've already talked a lot about love, about why, but excuse me, Maestro, we don't have it here. Of course, do you want another one?
Please, please, no.
Now it's their turn.
Please, no. I don't want to see that. If you want, I'll send a message.
No, I don't want to. I knew it. Hello.
I feel bad.
No, I didn't go out. What do you mean? No, I feel bad.
You'll feel better every minute.
No, I just like it. I like karagir. Do you want it with or without liquor? Without liquor. Because I've noticed you're getting fond of the conversation. I love it. Honestly, what's happening right now rarely happens to me with you.
Obviously, like you said, I try to be a channel for the people who listen to us. I hope that everything we're talking about is blowing their minds, and above all, that it sparks the curiosity. Like you said, to say, I need to stop living on autopilot, and I need to learn from the masters or from those who have been there how to become that version of myself that reconnects with love and not with labels. Very good.
Sorry. Just to clarify, now you're going to make this podcast like a Netflix series. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Are you sure? We haven't been going for that long. Okay. And we're not even heading toward the most... Sorry, I just found out. No, I love it. It's a conversation. It's really not that formal. You can see that. And I also think things turn out better this way. But I was telling you that it rarely happens to me that my mind goes into a state of, I have 658,000 questions. But obviously I need to bring it down so that people can start to assimilate it. But we'll make a series, just like you said, and we'll go deeper so that people don't stop following us on that topic. Very good. Dayal, we've already talked about how you can be unconscious or conscious in love or in fear. And that there are people like us who every day try not to disconnect from that love. Although, of course, there are always things to work on and things to do in order to function and blend into this society. But you know that you are in love, that the person you connect with brings out that version of yourself and more. But if you look at the world, marriages, casual relationships, even sex, which you used to say is an art, but today it's treated like just another thing. If you want, you can. We can get into it. The one you love so much. That's what I want to get into right now, because we've already talked about this beautiful context about what love is and isn't. But we keep seeing generation after generation people who live from fear, who raise their kids from fear, from their wounds, from bad programming, from a lack of love, from negativity, from unconsciousness. And so this gets perpetuated. Even today, you still believe in that the relationships that might come through that door can transcend and can get better? Or do you think that relationships, couples, shouldn't get into formal marriage anymore and just be together while it lasts? Or how do you see relationships nowadays?
Look, I think it's not about believing. I just want to make a simple observation. For as long as we can remember, all marriages either end badly or continue badly. Yes, let's say I mean everything in general. Sometimes there are marriages that are a little more fortunate, but it's a constant. Yes. Therefore, the first thing one should ask is marriage the right structure to find each other? Early on. If everyone ends up badly since the dawn of time, isn't it that we're doing the wrong thing and we only do it because we're used to things being that way? Isn't it that society and human love relationships should have a different structure? Or maybe no structure at all? I'm not proposing that. Something different, I'm just saying. Wouldn't it be smart for us as humans to ask ourselves whether this is really the natural way for a human being, given that it always ends badly? It's not that there's something wrong with the human being, but rather with the structure itself. First thing. The second thing is, I'm pretty much ready again to have a lasting relationship. Marriage, apparently, it's not, isn't the right structure. I'm not sure what we're doing right. The first thing we try to do is educate the next generations better, because we're already screwed. We're screwed. I mean, there's one. If I could, what do I do? There are possibilities. There are possibilities. And I say this from experience because I see it in my workshops. If you already have a relationship, you have children, especially if you come for, it's very important to learn something about love and something about awareness. Because it's not just your damn life at stake. The lives of people you've invited into this world are at stake. The life of the person, the mother or father of these children, is at stake. So, if you are a father or mother, you have an obligation to come back to this one here. It's no longer about relationships, love, or a mantra. Even though you have 4 kids, 2 of them are damn teenagers who fight over stupid things. You have an obligation to be mature and aware. So look for someone who can teach you to be aware. Try to understand what it means to be aware. Here, one might sometimes confuse awareness with behaving well or not. Obviously, that's not what it is. Awareness is more of a scientific mechanism of the lower world. It's not moral. So first, it's about understanding. Why were there some teachers? Not many. At least Jesus, very popular here in Mexico, and Buddha, Bodhidharma, Lao Tzu, Kabir, Omar Khayyam, and so on. Some try to understand what it is. They tried to teach. And I don't know what, I become unpopular. I'll tell you. But religions have shown that they are not good vehicles for the teacher's message to reach you, too contaminated. I don't want to disrespect anyone. Disrespecting Navi is a very easy way to show that they have failed. A very simple example. All religions, for thousands of years, they teach us to love. They tell us to love, and to love your neighbor, but not to love yourself. Love your neighbor, love your wife, love your husband, your children, love your parents, love the elderly, love your neighbors, love your enemies. And after 2,000 years of teaching you to love this way, look at the result. What does it mean that it doesn't work? How long, how many thousands of years do we give it a chance to prove that its method works? It doesn't work. And it wasn't Jesus's method, no. It wasn't Buddha's method. It wasn't Lao Tzu's method. Lao Tzu. Have you seen it, Shonan? Obviously. There was a friend, a theater artist in Italy, who used to say something that I quote in my book, Te Ichido. Okay? Sete Ichido. Okay? Because I'm still alive. Vanni de Lucia used to say, the place for revisions is here. There is the master, and around the master a school forms. And the most intelligent disciples are the ones who become masters. And then there are the other less intelligent disciples who become the caretakers of the school, the ones who have the key to the school. They keep the records, they do things, all the school's politics. They don't understand anything more about the master, but they know how to manage the school well. When you're not very smart, you have to settle for power. Huh? When you're smarter, you can aspire to art. When the master dies, the smartest disciples go around the world to carry the master's inspiration. The less intelligent disciples, those who are more interested in power, take over the school and create the religion. The message of Jesus has been almost completely lost. I'm going to write a book.
What you said. Sorry to interrupt, happens in religions, in governments. Everywhere, everywhere.
Just look at what happens to communism, to the winter of communism. In the end, what does it say? It says, share. We share, right? But if you put communism in the hands of selfish people, in conscience it becomes a monster. Yes, that's what you say.
Whoever lives in love doesn't seek to subdue or control my impossible soul. Of course, but those people aren't interested in those positions. And the less intelligent people, as you define them, are the ones who are interested in those positions.
Look, just saying it. Who knows? Maybe that's an argument that could interest people too. And spirituality doesn't mean behaving well. And what religions have done, religions teach you to behave well. So what you do is you force yourself to behave. Well, you repress what's bad and you try to act good. But the bad part stays there, and sooner or later it comes out. It always comes out. I constantly see Catholic families betraying each other, hitting their children, doing horrible things. Rape Catholic families who go to church. Very religious countries that wage wars. How is that possible? Impossible. Now, it's not about learning to behave well. It's about becoming aware. If you become aware, it's impossible to behave badly, even if you want to. If you are aware, how can you take advantage of someone? It's impossible, exactly. Impossible.
And you wouldn't deceive someone you love. You wouldn't manipulate someone you love either. Impossible, of course. Nor would you dominate in this macho or hyper-radical feminist way.
They're all neurotic, phenomena. When you become aware, you automatically start to respect. For the first time, really. And the first thing is, if you don't respect yourself first, right? And then others naturally. I wasn't a tough person. I was never a bad guy, but I've been someone like so many others, which has made me quite civic minded. I don't give a damn. Not in the sense of my book now, but like, screw you, life is worthless, life is crap. Look around you. We take advantage of others. We live in selfishness. We live in poverty. We live in war. What is life worth? 2 years. And is the R for fairy? Nothing. I am a survivor. So it's not that I've changed because I've reached a certain point, like now I'm going to start behaving well. No, I woke up from life's therapy and started to change everything. Yes. When you become aware, you can no longer deceive others. And I like that it changes for you because otherwise it would be very hopeless, right? Now, if all of documented history and the era of books talk about how we haven't experienced love. No, never, never. There has always been. Just a few.
Yes, the ones I mentioned, exactly. Society has lived out of fear, and relationships too, from a place of survival. And today, in these times when people no longer need a partner to survive, or to gain status, or to gain freedom, etc., or to travel with someone, or I don't know, thousands of reasons that were never about love. Today, people want love because today women, for example, can support themselves. They don't need someone to boss them around. Status isn't like it was in the times of nobles and bourgeois and whatever else, right? It doesn't matter now. Everyone just does their own thing however they want. More than ever, people want love, emotional connection. Someone, a partner. But we're getting lost and facing off with babe because we're getting into relationships from a place of no love. So here we really emphasize what Prem Dayal says. Learn to live in love, and we'd love to tell you everything in a single podcast, even things we haven't learned ourselves, but everything we have learned to tell you in 1 or 2 or 3 hours. But it really has to be a serious state of being, a way of living, right? It is a state of being that naturally produces a way of living. It's not that I decide, now I'm good. Now I go around like some love guru. It's not just about being aware, but I repeat, when people hear being aware, they can misunderstand. Simply relaxed here in this moment, without the past, without the future. I simply stay here. And when I stay here, in this present moment, God starts to act through me. Who is speaking to you now? Ah, in this moment. Where do my words come from? You tell me. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. From that state, the being called gave it his love. At a certain point, they form and I speak. That's how all things in life are. And when my mind interferes, that's when things get a little weird. Things get a little weird. I've been training in the art of life for 40 years. I should have picked up something in 40 years. Even a little bit. And you lose something in 40 years. Okay, it's like a sport. Do you want to be an athlete? You have to train yourself. All right. Or do you want to play the piano well? Or what? To play the piano well, it's not enough to just say, I'd like to play the piano. No, you have to practice every day, and then you'll play the piano well. And playing the piano well is one of the most beautiful things that can happen in life. Living is an art. If you want to learn the art of living, you have to practice. Yes. And what is practicing? What we call meditation.
what we like to call Zen, what I like to call the psychology of no mind. Okay. The techniques are like a training to be able to come together, to naturally increase the distance between you and your mind. If you train in this, you first understand the art, then you practice the technique. Then at a certain point, you become a virtuoso in this art. And you become a little more than just being related to yourself in front of my little friends, chatting without even knowing what happened this December. The people who come to my workshops are sometimes amazed by what I tell them. I do very intense work with people. Truly, incredibly intense work. And then from time to time, I honestly don't know what I'm doing. Well, you don't know what you're doing. We put our lives in your hands. And obviously, I don't know what I'm doing. I deal with the mystery of existence. How could I know? If I were teaching you how to fix a Volkswagen, of course, I would have to know what I'm doing. But when I'm dealing with the mystery of existence, love, I don't really know how I could have a solid, certain tool to tell you how to love and how to live. I don't know. And in the same way that I'm talking to you, I speak in my workshops, and a subtle and profound alchemy happens, and people start to transform without any effort on their part.
I love it. And you just said something. I really resonate with that. Presence, mindfulness. When you forget about the future, what you call politics, right? All this stuff you have to keep projecting and analyzing the future and also the past. And you connect to the moment and you listen or you hug or you savor or you enter a beautiful state of being. And we've all experienced this. Just think about a trip. They leave their life behind and they're there in the moment. Everything impresses them. They want to take pictures with everything. They see life again with innocent eyes. And of course, there are very striking things and attractions and everything. But there are moments when you want to take a picture with a rock, or you're happy with the sand, or you're happy just having a relaxed conversation with someone. I think that's where it comes in. Or they can savor it to understand how it feels. Return to that part of you, filled with present love, that feels wonder, that sees life with innocent eyes. Or the way I put it, we're born as a diamond, and then it gets covered with carbon, with many layers of carbon. That's all this culture, conditioning, wounds, and so on. And reconnect with yourselves, with your inner self, with love, or with God, or whatever you want to call it.
That's exactly what I do. I don't do anything positive, or I only do something negative. I mean, it's not like I teach you anything. I mean, the people who come to my workshops, and I simply remove the carbon, the dust that has settled on top of you. You are a diamond. And I simply create the conditions in which, hopefully, you realize it. You can see it. You can experience it, even if just for a moment. Because if you experience the diamond that you are, even for a moment, you are already beyond the misery of human life. Afterwards, you may have problems in your life. You might forget, but you've seen it, and you've remembered. Then your job is to keep your diamond clean. But once you reconnect with that, you want to contribute. You want to go back there no matter what. That's what happened to me. For me, the change, the transformation happened in a moment. Yes, it hasn't been a progressive process. Yes, I've done so many things. But there, it's a stumble, it's a setback. It's an incident. You see something, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. It's just that I've gone back.
Now I have no reason to return, not even for a carajillo. I brought it to you. They already did.
Brought it to you. But they brought it to you.
They already brought it to you. Of course. What do you mean no? Cheers. It must be fun for you, right? Wow, Rico, cheers. We use all the water well for you.
Rico.
It's just that they like you more than me. Honestly, when I tried it the first time, I thought it was kind of awful. Damn witch! You grabbed the package. Yeah, you already repeated it. You saw.
That's exactly what happens. With this moment we're talking about, when you're on autopilot and suddenly you connect with that conscious part, it feels kind of awful because waking up feels kind of awful. You notice and question everything, aren't satisfied with the usual, and want to keep improving and growing. You realize that the people you're with probably don't resonate with you anymore, but you go for another round and that doesn't help you disconnect anymore.
You feel afraid and proceed to carry out your being. Society doesn't like it. Society has invested a ton of time and money to screw you over, to make you, let's say, a poor guy, to make you, let's say, just another animal on the farm. Freeing yourself. People like Jesus were crucified for it, of course, obviously. Yeah, pero you have to choose. You can stay in a damn herd, staring at the backside and following the backside of the guy in front of you, just waiting for death. Don't worry. Death will come and free you from the torment of following some damn guy's backside. Or you can take the risk of going on your own, of honoring your uniqueness. There isn't a single human being among all the damn human beings in all of eternity who is the same as you. If you don't live according to your uniqueness and don't express your unique potential, you've wasted your life. This is the only sin that exists. Using the metaphor of God, how can I put it? God sends you into this world to give something to the world, because He wants to enrich the world with your presence. If you betray this uniqueness with which God, in His clay workshop, sent you here, you have betrayed God. The only way to be faithful to God's plan is to be faithful to your uniqueness. Discover it and have the courage to live according to your uniqueness and not according to what you've been taught or the patterns they follow.
That's right, returning to ourselves, to that place where we were always happy, to that place where everything amazed us, where we were very present, where we could be loved without questioning. Love without questioning. We were love, and that's what we were since we were babies. But then, as we said, we forgot, we disconnected, we covered ourselves in coal. But today, two people here who have found their purpose, who try every day to live in love. That's what they learn, share, and above all, live with lots of stumbles and all sorts of things. Well, today we're trying to tell you, return to yourselves, to that part of you that has always been there. It's just that you're looking outward so much that you forget about it. And so you buy and consume and search and love, or rather those who need partners love and are always looking outward. But as my dear Prem Dayal says, you have to look a little more inward. How? Well, that's what Nayal social media are for. That's what Johnny Abraham and everything we do in Conquista Tu Mundo are for. And that's what many mentors, much older than us, are for. Many teachers from Jesus, Buho, and all the ones you mentioned. So give yourselves the chance to read more, to talk to yourselves more, to remember those moments or those times when you were truly yourself, happy and good, and where you allowed yourselves to receive everything that this life has to offer beyond consumption and the superficial. Prem, I like Prem Dayal because you already told me you like Nayal more. Not me, I like him more than Nayal.
Actually, my original name is Fred Dayal, which means compassionate love is Dayal. It may seem like Dayal is Prem's last name in Prem Dayal, but actually Prem is a suffix, and the real name is Dayal. My wife calls me Nayal. My buddy from there calls me Dayal and Nayal. But many times in public, people call me Fred. What is your birth name? My birth name was Giuseppe.
Giuseppe. Good. Italian. Very, very Italian. And well, I really want to thank you for being here. Your talk, I hope it resonates with many people. It really resonates with me.
Obviously, go follow him. You know, if you know them, what your social media, not really, but at least I remember the website. But it's Prem Dayal Intimates.
Great.
You'll be able to see all his books there. If not, look him up on Google.
And I'll also put everything we do here at Conquista tu Mundo in the episode link. We have workshops, courses, and soon my book, which, by the way, is called No Tea Cases. I'll tell you more about it. Oh, I like the title. It's good. Very good. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's No Tea Cases. And it's precisely about trying to reinvent this idea of marriage, which we already know doesn't work, but we don't really have many proven alternatives. There have been open relationships, Ramona, or so-called swingers, polyamory, same-sex relationships, and people go through the same dramas. So I propose a different equation there, and I'll be sharing it with you soon. Prem Dayal, let's give you a round of applause here in the studio. Thank you very much. We'll see you in another series of episodes. Please. Thank you very much. See you soon.